A lot of you messaged me about this follow up interview with Maine's governor. So here we are. And I'll be honest, the more I watched it, the more frustrated I got while editing. But it also confirmed something I've felt all along. This boycott, this stance we're taking as Canadians, it's the right move. And if this video ends up being the last time I cover Governor Mills, I'll be just fine with that. Today's backdrop features a few photos my mom took around Vancouver. Some of you asked if she has a website for professional printing. I'm working on it now, so stay tuned. All right, let's get into Governor Mills's latest sales pitch. Interview.
Maine is practically surrounded by Canada, and today Governor Janet Mills is in Nova Scotia after spending 2 days in neighboring New Brunswick. Mills took questions from Canadians at an event with New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt yesterday, but even while sitting next to the governor, Holt was blunt about the barriers to tourism.
Until Canadians feel like it is a safe environment in the U.S. where there is both respect, the economic balance has been restored. I think our Prime Minister said it well when he said the relationship is fundamentally changed. And you don't bounce back from that overnight. Things will have to change significantly in the U.S. for us to feel good about choosing to go spend our money there right now.
Before we go any further, I want to pause and say this clearly. Premier Susan Holt, you have my respect. Thank you for saying what needed to be said, face to face, to Governor Mills. Canadians and international tourists have real concerns, and safety isn't something that gets brushed aside just because tourism dollars are on the line.
Maine Governor Janet Mills joins me now. Governor Mills, it's good to meet you. Thank you for joining us today.
Good to meet you, David, remotely.
Well, thank you. It's a difficult time for our two countries right now. You know, Donald Trump's tariffs, his comments about making Canada a state, it's got a lot of people staying home and not spending money in your country. Why are you arguing Canadians should look past that and visit Maine?
Well, look, we have a deep-seated interrelationship, both commercial and familial and cultural. Maine, in particular, has many Mainers, if not the majority of Mainers, have some Canadian roots. I myself have roots go back in Pugwash, Nova Scotia. The Millses are buried in Pugwash. Those who didn't come across in 1843 to Stonington, Maine, and settle there. So that's typical of people of Maine having connections and cross-border connections. People go buy groceries in Edmundston and they come work in Madawaska. Same with Holt and Woodstock. The cross-border connections are deep and very lasting. And our import-export trade is vibrant as well. I've toured some facilities today and compared notes with what's going on in Maine in terms of research on offshore wind, research on the maritime industries and science, coastal science. We have a relationship with Dalhousie University.
Right.
All those things are happening. You can't tariff intellectual property or, thoughts and ideas and innovation. Those are things we keep sharing, regardless of tariffs or the talk of tariffs.
Well,
I said this in my last video, and I'll say it again. Thanks for the history lesson, Governor Mills. But here's the thing. Just because our two countries had a long relationship doesn't mean much now. A relationship only works if both sides respect it. If one side turns its back, or worse, stabs the other's back and threatens to wipe their country's existence, then all the shared history in the world doesn't mean a damn thing. Let me know in the comments if you feel the same.
Yeah.
no, I was going to say, it seems with this president, if he could find a way to do that, he might, right? Because those long, deep personal connections you just listed off, Governor, that's what makes this one so difficult, because Canadians take it so personal, right? So, why shouldn't they spend their money here instead of in Maine, for example?
Well, it's personal to us, too, and it's offensive to us for anybody to offend our good neighbors and friends in Canada. And what I'm saying is there are hundreds and hundreds of small businesses across Maine who have historically depended on Canadian tourism, Canadian traffic. And I've talked with some of them who go back 300 years running a B&B or a restaurant. And so when people stop coming to Maine, particularly from Canada, from the maritime provinces, they're not hurting Donald Trump. They're not hurting the powers that be in Washington. They're hurting their friends here in Maine, whose businesses thrive and depend on Canadian traffic. And that is disappointing. You're not sending a message to Washington, and you're only hurting your friends and potentially family members who live and work in Maine.
I wonder if Governor Mills has ever looked at it this way. She says Canadians are hurting their friends in Maine by not coming back. But what if those same friends voted for the taco man who made this mess in the first place? We're being told to support US businesses, even if some of them help put Taco Man back in power. I don't agree with that. Sure, not every business voted for him, but some did. And now he's making decisions that affect all of us globally. There are around 300,000 Republican voters in Maine. You think none of them are the same people now asking for our tourism dollars? Something to think about.
Right, but you know, we have a not dissimilar situation here in core industries. The steel industry has lost about 700, 800 jobs with the tariffs. The auto sector has probably lost thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs have been upended by this circular firing squad of a trade war, right, that your president has started. So, like, there may be no quarrel with the good people of Maine, but how do you expect Canadians to support the Canadian economy when it's been the one that's been put on the ropes by the actions of the president?
Well, because I want them to know that what the president has done or predicted or proposed to do in the way of tariffs is also hurting us more deeply even. The Wall Street Journal put it this way: at the end of March, they had an editorial that said, these tariffs are nothing but a tax. They are a large tax heist. A large tax heist, and the tax is on the American people. And so it's nothing but a buildup of revenues to the federal budget. You think about it that way, it's us who he's hurting by doing that.
Maybe I've got my bias when it comes to Governor Mills, but this sounds a lot like gaslighting. Blaming the boycott for Maine's economic pain while ignoring why we're boycotting in the first place? You're asking Canadians to keep supporting your economy, but the reason we stopped is sitting right there in your government. Taco Man himself. Sorry, but I'm not buying that narrative. Let me know in the comments. Did I get this right? Or am I way off?
So I'm very hopeful that our congressional delegations across the country will stand up to this. It is Congress that owns the ability to tariff and impose tariffs or taxes. They need to take that back. We're also in the courts fighting him on tariffs and many other things. And we're winning in the courts, federal courts across the country on many, many issues. And I think we'll win on the tariff issue too, because I think what he's doing is not lawful, frankly.
Yeah, well, Congress has shown no real urgency in reasserting its constitutional control over trade just because of the capture of the Republican caucus in Congress. But, you know, it's the trade stuff, Governor, that's stopping a lot of people from going there. And then there's the immigration and border issues as well, right? We've seen people getting deported to countries that are not their country. And we've also seen a lot of reports about academics and others being searched at the border and finding something on their phone that a border officer doesn't like, and they're detained or they're denied entry. It seems like a bigger challenge than just the trade dispute and
well, that's
limiting
true.
people.
That's true. There are several different issues at play here. But honestly, the border stories, most of them, almost all of them are along the southern border.
I always manage to pause at the perfect moment. Anyways, no, it's not just happening at the southern border. Canadians are dealing with more aggressive questioning, attitude, and flat-out uncomfortable treatment at land crossings, even during pre-clearance at the airports. So, Governor, on this point, you're wrong.
Or in the university system, that's a visa issue. But between Canada and Maine, tens of thousands of people are coming from Canada into Maine all the time, passing back and forth. And there hasn't really been an issue. And we welcome people from Canada. We believe they are safe in Maine. Maine, remember, has the lowest violent crime rate in the country. We vie with Vermont for that. But we've always been a safe state. And they shouldn't fear that coming to Maine any more than Maine people should fear going to Western Canada and getting stuck in a forest fire. It's really not reasonable, and I want to make sure they feel welcome and safe coming to New England and coming to Maine in particular. So we have special relationships, and they are cross-border relationships that go back centuries. And we need to reaffirm those, reaffirm our friendships, and reaffirm our trade relationships, and move on to the future.
What's the hit been on your economy so far? I mean, do you have a dollar value, job value sort of quantification? Because a lot of tourism towns are really getting hammered.
Well, I don't know they're getting hammered. We had a pretty successful Memorial Day weekend in terms of road traffic. The road traffic from Canada, from February to April through April, was down about 26%. But that doesn't account for people coming from other states and other countries coming to Maine as well. But road traffic was down about 26%. That's down from 800,000 people last year, Canadians coming to Maine. But that need not continue. I know a lot of Canadians are still coming to Maine to go skiing this coming winter. A lot of Canadians are coming to go leaf peeping in the fall. A lot of Canadians are still coming to Old Orchard Beach. And the Quebecois are always welcome to their historic vacation spot, Old Orchard Beach, Kennebunkport, Wells, Gunquit, Acadia National Park, which is easily accessible from Nova Scotia by way of the CAT. So people are coming,
Right.
and they are feeling safe. They should be safe.
Well,
That sounds more like a hollow promise than real reassurance. And if Canadians are still coming down, if your Memorial Day weekend was so great, then why are you still pleading for us to come back? What's missing from this whole interview is any talk about what you or other governors are actually doing to stand up to Washington. Because right now, your citizens are doing more than you are. The No Kings protest, largest in U.S. history. People are out there risking it all to push back against the Taco Man regime. And yet yours and other governors' energy is aimed at Canada? I know I sound like a broken record. I'm getting tired of saying it. But nothing changes unless the actions do, and so far it's been all talk.
Governor, just as a final point, we're a week or so into a 30-day timeline that the Prime Minister Carney and President Trump sort of set for resolving this latest trade dispute when they met face-to-face at the G7 in Kananaskis in Alberta. But, if it isn't agreed to, if it isn't resolved by then, Canada's hitting back with tariffs effective the 21st of July on steel and other things. I mean, what's your concern as a governor if things don't get resolved in the couple of weeks that are left in this?
Well, Maine, like other states, is dependent on steel and aluminum, things that already have a tariff right now. And our construction costs have gone up by about 10% alone in recent months. That's hurtful. Other states are seeing the same thing. So obviously we don't want to see more tariffs with the retaliatory tariffs. And I hope that both parties, I'm appreciative of your new Prime Minister's efforts, his developing a new relationship with our President. I hope it's successful and productive, and I think that it will be beneficial to both sides to stop the talk about tariffs. Again, in the United States, only the Congress has the authority to impose tariffs and taxes. They need to take back that authority. There was an effort that way a couple months ago in the Senate, came very close to passing. Now we need to work on the House as well.
Right. The Canada-U.S. relationship economically has been arguably the most successful economic relationship in the history of the world. It seems like it's a good idea to keep it going, but here we are. Governor Janet Mills, it was really good to meet you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I think when businesses step up and make the complaint, as they're beginning to do as well, they'll have an impact on the president.
For sure. Governor.
Wait, did anyone else catch that? Right at the end of the video, Governor Mills said something that made me do the Leo pointing meme. Governor, instead of guilt-tripping Canadians into coming back, why not direct that energy where it actually matters, toward the U.S. businesses you're trying to protect? Because let's be honest, some of those same businesses now begging for our tourism dollars, they're the ones who voted for Taco Man. They backed the chaos. And now you want us to clean up their mess? No, not going to happen. You said those businesses could influence the president if they speak up. So why aren't you rallying them? Why aren't they demanding answers from Washington? Right now, it looks like both you and those businesses are just sitting back, waiting for Canadians to fix this for you. That's not how this works. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a Canadian with a YouTube channel watching this unfold from across the border. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did I assess this one fairly and say what most of us are already thinking? Or have I covered Maine so much that it's starting to cloud my judgment? Either way, I'd love to hear your take. If you found this video useful or it hit a nerve, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's push this message out to more people. I'd like to say this is my last video on Maine, but these days, things change by the hour. If you're still here, thank you for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one.